In live stream. Got it. All right. Hey, welcome everybody. It's good to be here. Uh Shoot, I'm going to start off with a song here for this power hour. It's been a while since I've been on. And it's really it's good to be here. Holy, let me get things set up here real quick as we get going. I got Mike Duncan on with us here. Yeah, right
Oh,
on, brother. Hey, I'm going to get us off with the song here, just to get things kicking off in a good way here. Plus that helps with my wellness too. As I sing and I take a look at the drum, and so as I sing and just welcome everybody in, whoever comes on here today, just welcome. I want you just like to think about your ancestors, the land of your ancestors. What was it like for them? Think about the land that you're on right now. What did that land look like before all the buildings and the pavement and the cement, that was there, and when everything was trees or all the waters there. Think about that, and think about the sunrises and sunsets, the river, sound of the rivers, and just ground yourselves. Mike behind him has a flicker, northern flicker up here, and one of my favorite birds, beings in this world. So, bring those things to your attention just as I sing this song and start us off in a good way. So, ho, 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 hey, 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 yo, ho, oh, hey, he, hey, hey, ho, ho, hey, ho, ho, hey, 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 yo, ho, oh, hey, he, hey, hey, ho, ho, hey. Nakamtagi get away oh slow dot get me ho ho hey he yo ho oh hey he hey hey ho ho hey. Oh, thank
ooh.
you. That song was from my Simchan brother, Johan. Um, Gifted me that song. It's a song to honor our ancestors from his Simshan ancestor or song. So Gunash Chish, Ewe Haya Ade, Gunash Chish. My name is Gene Tagaban. I'm of the Duck Day and Tom, Raven Freshwater Sockeye Clan from Hoona, Alaska. Child of a Wichita, Nego Shark Clan from Juan in Juneau, Alaska. Cherokee Tlingit and Filipino. My father is Tlingit and Filipino. My last name, Tagaban, comes from my Filipino side. And the Philippines is pronounced Tagaban. And my grandfather comes from Bantock, and my great grandfather comes from Ilocos Norte. My mama, she's full blood Cherokee, and her Cherokee name is Weeg. I'm of the Wolf clan on that side. She was born in Jay, Oklahoma, raised in Xena, and before the Trail of Tears, she traced her lineage back to a place that is now known as Georgia, Tennessee, and North Carolina. Right now, I'm coming to you from the land, the territories of the Coast Salish people, the traditional lands of the Puyallup people in the shadow of Mount Tahoma here in the Pacific Northwest. But that's a little bit of who I am and with my introductions. And one of the most important things that you could do is learn how to introduce yourself. We're always introducing ourselves because our introductions come from not just with our words, but just with our presence of who we are when we walk into the room, walk down the streets, or walk into the sweat lodge, or into the arena when we go to dance, or the longhouse. How do you introduce yourself? And with those introductions too, I just want to welcome everyone to the Native Waters Institute. And we're a nonprofit organization, and our sacred purpose for the Native Waters Institute is to keep our ancestral wisdoms alive, and by practicing them in today's, life and beyond. And we started the power hours, man, like a couple of years ago, and it was and My hair, I tell you, we started those power hours. My hair was a little bit blacker, thicker. I didn't have this mustache and beard here and stuff. And but we've started this just to during the pandemic, just knowing that our people would be re-traumatized with the pandemic, and our solution, our action on what can we do, what can we do, how can we move forward during this time. And so with the Native Wellness Institute, we put together these power hours. And we've been, I don't know, we've got over 400 power hours now, and we have a YouTube channel and with topics, with guests, and many, many, many experiences during that time. So today, during this power hour, welcome, welcome, welcome. Invite other people in to come on in. But I wanted to invite a brother of mine. You know, I can relate to him as a brother. And Mike Duncan. I'll have you introduce yourself in just a second here, but Mike and I we got to know each other like a few years ago or so, you know, and I was doing a training or some work in Reno, and everyone's going, man, you got to meet this guy, Mike Duncan, man. You and him are doing the same work. You guys are speaking the same language. You guys got that same passion, you know. And I said, oh, bring him in, you know. And then I came in and started doing his work. I'm going right on, man, you know. And since then we've just been kind of crossing paths and parallel paths and working together. So, hey, brother, introduce yourself.
Thank you, Brother Gene. Again, my name is Mike Duncan. I'm an enrolled member of the Round Valley Indian tribes here in California. My tribal heritage on my father's side lineage is Maidu, Wintun, and Wailaki. And then on my mother's side, she's Western Band, Shoshone, Tomok. And so I'm happy to be here. I'm also the executive director of Native Dads Network. We're based out of Sacramento, California. And really our work is surrounded around fatherhood, working with men coming out of incarceration, addiction, really teaching healthy lifestyle to the men and women in our communities. And then also we're starting to work more and recently active with the youth and really trying to educate them and give them a clear path going forward. So thank you for having me here today. You know, it's been a while. It's been longer than that. I think it's been about 5 years, Gene, since when I first met you,
Yeah.
man. You just that's what happens. You just
I'm good.
no, it seems like not that long ago, but it's really been a minute, you know, that I met you, and it was I crashed your party, I crashed your training, I just showed up, and yeah, had to meet you, man. So I'm glad you guys didn't kick me out. Hey.
Hey, right on. And we keep inviting you back in, man. It's like offering Indian guys some food and a place to stay, man. It was like it's there.
Yeah.
Hey, man. I just wanted to bring you in today and just to have that conversation just about wellness, you know, and our passions and the work that we're doing and our purposes, our sacred purposes that we're on. Um, and why do we do the work that we do? I mean, you talk about your story, and our life is a story, you know, and our long life story to this point is made up of the moments that make up the long story, you know. And what are some of those moments in your life story that led you to this work that you do, that
Mm.
led you to this on the path that you do? What are some of those pivotal moments in your story?
Well, I think yes, when we start to look at I'll just, obviously start with me and talk about my past and how what kind of led me to this place was that, I grew up in a family and in a community that alcohol was normal, normalized. And, I came a product of my environment. I got in trouble at a young age. I hit juvenile hall, boys ranches, juvenile halls, and kind of grew into and graduated into the older things that, they send men when they're not behaving. And I think even if that experience itself wasn't really you would think that would be my dark place, that place where, it would like it make me look like rethink things. It didn't, you know, it was a place where I got healthy. It was a place where I got my mind right, kind of. And it was a place where, I was at least safe. I felt safe. And how weird does that sound? What changed my life and what impacted me the most is when I was really caught up in my addiction. It was all things. I was addicted to alcohol, marijuana, cocaine, meth, like whatever you had, I'm doing it, right? And it was and that lifestyle of kind of running the streets, hustling, trying to find this, find that, for a $5 high, or those type of things, just was, it was just, it became normal lifestyle for me from a very young age, and then it became an adult where it was like, I didn't know, I wasn't employable. I couldn't get a job. I didn't have any ambitions to get a job or anything of that nature, or even change my life. But one of the things that really impacted me the most was my kids.
Mm.
When I started having children, and I started going, holy smokes, I'm a dad, and I can't even quit drugs, or can't quit this lifestyle even for them. It's so hard, and I got into the mindset of thinking like, they don't need me. They don't need me. They're better off without me, and what happened was, is one of those moments when it's happening. It was like, I hated it. It's one of those moments where you go, this sucks, and the system, and you're doing all the finger pointing, what I mean, the system's racist, they're all against us, and you're doing those things. But I didn't know at that time that creator was working in my life. The creator was doing something for me that I couldn't do for myself. And it was actually removing my children from me, and they were put in the foster care. And because the mother of my children were in the same position at the time, it was either I was going to get right, or get sober, and they were giving me an opportunity to do that, or you're going to lose your children. And so I worked on myself, and I made a commitment to myself, and I prayed, and I did all the things I was supposed to do. And that's where the journey began with all this, understanding. And still my purpose of, like, when I do this work, is I'm a father. So when I work in the communities and I'm doing things, I look at it as like, if these were my children, if these are my people, like, these are the things that I would want for them as a child. What are the things as a growing up, what didn't I get as a child, right?
Mhm.
What did I learn that was negative, and what didn't I learn at all? Those are other things too, right? If I don't know what I don't know, right, how would I know? So you go through this life, and you start to think to yourself, like, and I've learned all this through the years. I've, like, this year in June, I'll years of recovery. I'll be clean and sober 15 years.
Wow.
14 years. 14 years. The year after, I quit smoking cigarettes. And the year after that, I quit cussing. So I don't, well, I had a couple relapses on that, but but on the most part, I don't say bad words. And there's a reason behind that. And maybe I'll get into that later. But I think one of the things is that when we started it was like my own lived experience got me into this work. And I just wanted to share with other people, like, how did I do it? You know what I mean? And why it's
Yeah.
important.
You said one of your purposes that turned you around was your kids. And we're talking about today is like the title of this today was sacred purpose. And so seeing your kids as that sacred purpose as part of it, And what is it? And those who are listening out there, what is it for you? What is it for you? Um, what is it that purpose and that sacred purpose that you carry? For myself too. I mean, I very similar. I grew up. I started partying at a young age in junior high, and getting in trouble, I can't believe I didn't get in more trouble than what I did. I had a good support system of adults in my life who were like trying to like keep me out of that trouble, and they did pretty good. And I'm still here. And as I look back, man, is in my path is, um, gosh, I had to someplace inside of me, and I was talking with Theta Newbreast about this when we were younger. There was someplace inside of me that knew to, if somebody gave me an opportunity, like to go to a ceremony, to a gathering, or to talk to this elder or talk to this individual, there's someplace inside of me that knew that that's what I need to do. Even in my uh when I'm smoking weed or drinking, there's some place inside of me that just knew that, and for some reason we trusted that, and that we trusted that, and I could trust that, but part of it too, but my family sure and couldn't trust me. There was times they couldn't trust me, and that hurt. My mom was like, I've brought my mom to tears before,
Mhm.
Where she's just this worry, concern, and telling me, I want you to stay here, I don't want you going out there. And she's just crying and begging me. And I'm like, just being young and stupid, thought I knew something. And it's like, nah, I'm like, I'll be fine. And then she would wait up all night for me. And so it's like, there's that. And then the sacred purpose that I have is actually, you know, working with our people, working with our people, seeing the addiction, seeing the hurt, seeing the harm, and then it's like working with the people. And I need that. To this day, I need that. I need to work with our people. If I'm just sitting idle, um, my mind can wander and just start getting negative thoughts and stuff. But I'm working with the people doing things like this, and it helps keep me on track. Helps keep me on track. And so part of it is that as well for myself. So man, your recovery, man, is like a huge part of you. And and will you ever be recovered?
Will I ever be recovered? No, I think that journey is it's a lifelong walk.
Yeah.
There's no way to be fully recovered, because as you're starting to dig and you start to heal in certain areas, something else will always reveal itself. You know what I mean? I think that's our like obviously our humanness, that we have these flaws. That's part of our nature to be flawed. But again, are we, just, and that's what I think people have to kind of get to this place of understand, like we're always gonna want to be better than we were, and like just kind of, be better than we were, and always try to be better than we was yesterday. You know what I mean? Like learning from our mistakes, right? And it's not easy. It's hard to look inside ourselves and at ourselves, even, and to be like, and to pick ourselves apart a little bit. Some people, it scares people to do it too, you know, because when they do that, then it's like, man, you know, they might find something they don't want to see. And so they just ignore it, or they keep on stuffing it down. But I
Mm.
think it's totally healthy to keep on looking in yourself and continue doing that work. I think that's what we have to start believing in and teaching.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. It's a lifelong journey here because I've there's so much more I want to learn. I need to learn, and because I'm getting to that age too, is that and you are too. We're both getting at that age too, where people are starting to ask us for like, how do you do this? How do you do that? And we're coming out of that stage of being the uncles, right?
Hmm.
And into the stage of being the grandfathers and those elders.
Hmm.
Part of that too is I look at myself and I talk to myself, and I'm like going, shoot, I'm not ready for this. And it was like Cecile Fire Thunder was talking. We were having a meeting last week, and she was talking about, I want to start a 12-step meeting for new coming elders. Those young ones are coming up because they got a lot of responsibilities that are going to be placed on them, and they need that 12-step support system. And I'm thinking about that too as we age, and that transition that we're making into that too. It's like being those keep learning and be those elders. You talked about this term being a welder. What's that, brother?
Oh, well, it's actually not something that I borrowed from my relative, Dean Hoagland. He talked about all the time. He said that he wanted to be just a welder. And we're kind of looking at him, and he goes, it means well elder. And I'm 50, I'm about to be 50 years old, or I'm 50 years old now, about to be 51 this year. And, I consider myself an older, but that's my goal. That's my vision for myself, is to be that well elder. What does it take to be that well elder, right? And so again, I would love to be part of that 12-step group too. I want to learn, what it takes to be an elder, or a welder in that case, because again, it's important. You know what I mean? As we are, and I think that's just the natural order of the way that we always done things. We get to this place, and that, like I remember the first time I went, cause I travel a lot for ceremony, and going to different communities. I remember the first time, one of the young ones called me uncle. I know I never asked him. I never introduced myself as uncle. You know what I mean? But I remember him saying that to me, and I felt how proud I was. I go, oh, he just called me uncle. And I felt like that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? Because I realized that that was an honor, that was out of respect for me, you know what I mean, in our relationship. And the same thing, in turn, and sometimes we go as by an age, but I think I want to earn it the same way. I want to be somebody to say that that person's my elder just based on the respect or the work that I've been doing in the community or with people too. You know what I mean? I think that's the difference between a welder and somebody that's just an elder. You know what I mean? I won't say just an elder, but an elder in that sense, in that particular way of them how I perceive it, right?
Right on. And talking about this, I'm looking at the chat here, and some of the you know we have a relative here. Their sacred purpose is to have peace, harmony, laughter, and to live in their heart, uh, to be over the generational trauma, and or to intuitive alignment. Sacred purposes have not have any felonies, and to be able to hunt and fish as they please and whatever. And yeah, and so right on. When somebody loves you, and just taking a look at the chats. Thank you everybody who's putting in the chats here as well. No, recovery is a journey, not a destination. And
Nope.
and so there's all that in that recovery too. And when we talk about this generational trauma, a relative in there put, to be over this generational trauma. Um, is that possible, brother? To be over this historical trauma, to be over this generational trauma. I mean, is that possible within, in this time that we're in right now? I mean, it's like it's everywhere. You see it everywhere. It encompasses who we are, and it's like it's been thrown on us to almost define us, but it doesn't define us, because we're more than that, right? We're more than just the trauma or the historical trauma, but it is us. I know it's me. So can we ever get over it? Or do we even want to get over it? Because part of that too is like people just want us to, hey, get over it already, or they're even saying it's like, forget about it. It's like, when are you going to forget about it? It's just the past. When are you going to move forward? And yeah, I mean, it's just like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a very good question. And I have given that a lot of thought. You know, I think one of the things that I realize, or even when I do classes or when I do groups or workshops or trainings or anything, that I try to emphasize the people and communities about the difference between healthy and unhealthy. And that's based on me seeing the world through different lenses. Like obviously at one time, I was drinking, using, acting up, abusive even to everybody, everything, or even myself around me, on a daily, yearly, for years. Like that was just a normal belief system, womanizing, like just that toxic man. I was that. And that was a belief system. Someone taught me that. It was shown to me. And so, through this healing part of understanding, again, understanding what's toxic and what's healthy. And that's just the battle every day that we have to walk through when we're getting in recovery, or we're in healing, or we're on this journey we're talking about. It's like, what's healthy? Healthy way to think, healthy way to perceive the world. What am I being taught? Everything around in this world is, I mean, especially this society that we live in this area, there's toxic things. There's beer commercials. They're promoting marijuana. There's domestic violence, and there's even in the music they're talking about, calling women the B word. Like there's all these things, just toxic, and we brought up some belief systems. And so it's very different when you talk about traditional belief systems and the sacredness of women, the sacredness of men, the sacredness of our children, the sacredness of our future generations. It's very, very different. It's totally two different worlds. Now, the problem is that when we start to speak about these things, people sometimes get frustrated because, it forces them to look at inside themselves. And then people start to say like, well, who are you to tell me? Or they go into this idea of like, oh, now you think you're Mr. Holy Man. You think you're all traditional. Now you got to do this way or that way. And it's not about that. The intergenerational trauma that we're speaking about is not from the past. We're living in it right now. Nothing's changed. It's labeled and looked different. And with this COVID pandemic, it was really showing me is that this is another layer on top of the trauma that we're experiencing. We're still highest rate of suicide. We're still the highest rate of addiction and deaths through addiction. We're still the highest rate of domestic violence and death through domestic violence. We're still the highest rate of, again, of incarceration, losing our young boys and young girls through car accidents, and diabetes. Like there's this list of things that are happening all around in our communities that we sit back and we go, man, you know what? Like, it's just, that's the normal. And a lot of our communities are, instead of addressing it and getting well to try to change some of those things, they're really saying, I'm gonna drink. I'd rather smoke. They're showing these videos that are doing, they're trying to be something they're not. They're, you know what I mean? I see all on social media. It's like, they're all just kind of like whatever, living their life to the best, you know what I mean? And I get it. I get it why you don't want to deal with it, because it's a hard stuff to face. So the seed has been planted years back, before our time, before our grandparents' time, for this time to come, where now we have to make some conscious choices, because there's people now today that have lived that, man, and I'll say this, survive that experience. We have survived that experience of through the attempt of genocide through our people. I'm a survivor of that. I've survived that. I have to acknowledge those things are there. And today it's a different story. So I choose to say something different, be something different, perceive something different. Right? How do I see the world? How do I talk? That's why, again, my cussing, the way that I speak, all these different things. And I talk about kindness, I talk about goodness, I talk about honor, I talk about love, I talk about forgiveness. I talk about those things because those things are important, right? But how are we going to heal? Because the vision is what you're talking about is the 10 generations down the road, 7 generations down the road. What's their life going to be like? Is their life going to be, domestic violence? Because if we don't change something today, if we don't start really committing to this and following this way of life, we won't be here anymore. That's the truth. So we have to change some things. We have to speak truth. We have to get to this place of understanding where it comes from. Right? We have to break the silence sometimes in our own communities, where people, sometimes we know where the DV is happening. We know where the people are using hard drugs. We know the people that are selling drugs in our community, but we don't say nothing. We have to break the silence. We have to sometimes go, okay, you know what? We don't have no money to do a group. We don't have the resources of maybe a clinic or anything, like, because some communities are really rural. But you know what? You can hold a sacred circle in your home. You can make a safe place in your home, create a fire, and do those things. I mean, there's ways that we can, and I only say that because when I started our men's group here in California, I had no money. Me and one brother sat at the park with our kids, and we talked about fatherhood and how our group started. And 13 years later, now we're a nonprofit, and we work with many men through California, all over, sharing that message of what a healthy man is, what a healthy father is.
Right on. I mean, it's like a lot of this stuff, the traumas, the hurts, the harms, the history. It could be triggering. It could be hard to hear. It could be hard to talk about it as well. And part of becoming that welder, is knowing that, is being aware of that. Even if it's just in your own area, or even with your own family. Because oftentimes too is those secrets, those family secrets, that have hurt and harmed, and that weren't even said, but they were just present, right? They're just present, and so it's to learn, educate, and it's like what is it that how are we going to get to those sacred purposes of teaching, of being a good man, being a good human being, being a good community member, or a leader, or a partner, a husband or wife, or father or parent, and it's like, part of it too is just understanding too that the traumas and the history, and not only the history of one thing I'm looking at too is the history of just the people in this country, the people in New Zealand, Australia, to the indigenous peoples over there, and take a look at the histories of the people in other countries as well, um, and so it's just to educate ourselves and to learn. You know, what motivates you, man? I mean, it's like, sure, there's those things that um, knowing these things and all, but I heard you talking about, the youth, and that's a big motivation for you, isn't that?
Mhm. Absolutely. I think that just, and I'll be honest, it's all kind of connected. Meaning like, I spend a lot of time, and this is something that I talk to our groups or our men about, our relationship with our creator, you know, and, a lot of times when I pray, whether it's in our roundhouse or, in the fire or sometimes I go into the NEPI or, just in my morning walks, or sometimes when I'm at the gym, I work out at the gym and things will just come to me. And before, a long time ago, I would just kind of go, oh, and it just play in my mind. I just now ignore it. And then it just kind of goes away, and so today I understand, because of that relationship I have with the creator, I understand those creators talking to me, and telling me things. And so the fear, like, again, like, I guess like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, if you would have told me, Mike, you're going to be on Facebook, you're going to do YouTube, you're going to do, all these things, Zooms. And I'm like, that's nuts. Like, no way. I will never do that, because I don't because we're kind of in a way that we're taught to be humble, not to share those things, um, and so when it's really happening, I was it was interesting, because right when you guys started the power hour, I was already in thought of it. And I was like, but I didn't know how to run Zoom. Like, I didn't understand Zoom yet. And so when I seen you guys come out, I was like, see, we're on the same page. Native Wellness Institute and Native Dads Networks on the same page. And we started doing men evening ones, that we started doing men talking sessions, we called it. We just had these little sessions, we had guests and different things. And I realized that, years back, I was working with the group. We're at the Buena Vista Rancheria tribal office, and I was sitting there and I was doing a group with men. And there was a group of women that came in from a domestic violence program, a tribal program here up in by towards Jackson, in that area in California. But and so they have a safe house and other things of that nature. But they came in, they wanted to see what we were doing, and so I invited them to come into our circle. And I got partway into our thing, and the lady stood up in that circle, and she raised her hand in the air. The director of that program, she started praying, crying. And she goes, thank you, creator. She goes, I never thought I'd see the day when I see men trying to heal. And right there, then, I literally went in tears. Right then and there, I understood that this is like the skipping of a rock. It all it impacts one after another. And so these men, you get healthy men, you'll get healthy, you heal the women, you get healthy men, you can heal our children. I started to understand the importance of not manhood, fatherhood. I started really seeing that. And as we go here, we sometimes, and adults, and we're very difficult, because we get stuck in one way. We get trained in one way of thinking, because I know this from my own experience, is that I believed something for a belief. I had a belief system when I was younger. I believed in all the toxic things that are out there. That was me. So that was a belief system I had. I worked really hard at it to believe that. And so when I started changing, it was difficult to recover. I didn't really truly understand what recovery meant. I didn't understand what healing meant. I didn't understand those things. And so where do we start then? Where do we give our kid, where do we give our future help? As long as I'm still working with families, that's good. But to start installing these teachings with our youth. To start talking to our youth. Again, the importance of being a good person, the importance of being kind, to understand that they're important, that they're needed, that they're so appreciated, like instilling that into them, and giving them the resources so they can grow and develop and to be strong leaders in our communities. And so, and then we're still impacted because again, they're a product like me. I was a product of my environment. We're battling that, right? Because we see this here in a, say we're doing a GONA, right? Or we're doing a youth wellness conference or something. They know how to behave there and think there, but when they go home, that's reality to them, right? So we have to encourage our parents to be involved. We have to start continue to work with our parents because, you know what I mean? If we don't do that, then we're missing something, because that's where the struggle is. We live in two worlds then, right? And what we're trying to do is make that world, our world, just complete. Like, we're all from different nations. I know that you're from a different nation, that I'm from a different nation. Like, everybody watching is from different nations, but we all should want the one thing, that is about healthy communities. That's the vision. That's the goal. That's the direction we're all walking, right? And that becomes important to us. And so that's kind of like, I got a lot more. I could go on for hours. You let me, but that just gets me started, man. That just right there gets me just.
I mean, it is. It's that coming together. I mean, sure, yeah, you're one nation,
Yeah.
nation, and we work together, man. It's like we bring our traditions together too. It's not like we're not going like when personally me and you when we come together.
Mhm.
It's not. I'm not going. No, man. No, this is the way to do it. The Tlingit people do it this way. No, my people do it this way. No, it's about we've actually meshed our cultures together for the purpose of the people, and to work together and in trainings together as well. And and I'm seeing that's what needs to be done out there. And as you said, that the women have been, for men to heal, the women have been waiting. I mean, they've been like holding us up. They've been at the forefront of the wellness, the healing, of our native communities, the gatherings, and waiting for men to heal, for men to step up. And we still have a long ways, but
Oh, yeah.
and what do your thoughts on, what do men need to do to heal? And we've talked about the culture, we've talked about the traditions, and over here in the Pacific Northwest, I like to take and go to the water, or just to get outside, and start to feel and start having these conversations with you, like we're having right now. Having these conversations. Sure, we could talk about, and uh, you. I'm surprised that you didn't even say a few of those choice words when during the Raiders when they lost their games. I know you're a big Raiders fan and stuff like that, but sure, we can have these conversations about the Raiders and the NFL and the football and all those things, But also we can have the conversations around wellness and healing and how domestic violence is within the NFL too. I mean, and this the perpetration of what goes on there, and how can even that all is infiltrated into that as well. But we could still talk about football and all that, but we still, as men, have this conversation around healing and emotions and feelings and the wellness of our future generations, the children. I mean, that's a big motivation for me too. I don't have children. I'm not a father, but I'm an uncle to many.
Mhm.
I'm an uncle to many, and even people I don't even know, they come up to me and they call me uncle too now, and so it's like, there's that teaching. So how, as far as men, how do we need to um, heal, and I know there's a questions in here too, is with the human trafficking and the MMIW, and the domestic violence out there and sexual abuse. What really kind of really got me was like when I saw this here, one thing that um, the greatest threat to women's health and wellness are men.
Mhm.
The greatest threat to women's health and wellness are men. And that hurts me.
Mhm.
That hurts me because our women, we need to hold them up as sacred, and sacred beings, sacred purpose.
I know. I remember. I do a live feed in the morning too on our page, And it's like 6:30 in the morning. And I remember I shared some words on there about, again, empowering men and what we could do as far as men trying to heal. And she actually private messaged me after that, and she mentioned to me, she goes, you know what, I never heard a man talk the way that you talked my entire life. It was so good and it was so strong and healthy that there's no men like that in our community. And like you said, that made me sad. But what do I, so going forward, when you start to look at places and saying, okay, well, we could examine the past. We could say, what got us to this place? We could do that for a long time. I think for myself, what makes it different for me today is understanding what am I doing going forward. Like, I know that my time here on earth is not going to be forever. It's limited as long as I'm going to be here on earth. What am I leaving behind to my children? Am I leaving them goodness, kindness, love, forgiveness? Am I teaching them something powerful as far as ceremony and all those other things? Or am I being toxic to them? Am I passing that sickness forward, that poison that a lot of our people talked about in the past, right? And when I start to understand those things, and I start to look at myself, I want to be healthy. I started seeing the power in goodness. I started seeing power in kindness. I started seeing power in just being a thoughtful person and treating women in a good way. And I started treating people in that sense, because I understand that they have that power to change too. But sometimes they have to see that. They have to see another person go through these things so they can say, I'm with you on that, brother. That's why I so openly talk about my toxic behavior in the past, or the abusive ways that I used to think and treat people. I didn't know nothing about abuse. When I was growing up, no one even talked about abuse. I didn't even know what that even meant. I just seen men act that way, and I heard music, I seen movies, and so I behaved the same way. And I thought it was okay. That's the truth, right? And then I got well, and I started doing trainings. I started doing all these workshops and going to conferences, and I'm going, holy crap, they're talking about me. That was me 10 years ago. That was me 5 years ago. And when I was, first getting in recovery, right? And that was a hard thing to say, crap, I need to change. I don't want to be that no more. I don't want to be that man. And what Al Pooley talks about, he goes, do you want to be the asset to your family or the burden to your family? And I said, I want to be the asset to my family. I want to be the asset to my community. So when we do this work, when we start to talk about bringing our men together and what can we do to bring our men together, first it's going to start off, especially if it's your community's not used to something like that. Because I've been doing this long enough and been in so many different communities. Every community has good men. Every community that don't have, there's a good men in, but they're hiding. They're staying to themselves. They don't want to associate with the toxic, so they just stick to themselves. And so it's really hard. And then if an individual that comes in our communities is non-native, then they're going, oh, well, you're not native, so you don't have nothing to offer me. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I don't respect it. So like to have a native brother step forward and go, you know what, this is what you are, man. There's no honor in abuse. There's no honor in drinking alcohol and acting that way. There's no honor in abandoning your children. There's no honor in that. And so I always pose this question to people, and men and women: what would happen 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago, if you treated your man or your woman that way, or your children that way that you do now? What would your community do to you if you abandoned your woman or abused your woman as a man? What would community, if you're a mother to your child and you abused your child, or you didn't take care of your husband in a good way? What would happen to that child? What would your community do to you? There'd be consequences to those things, right?
Yeah.
And so we bring the old stuff to the new, like the new today. Nothing's changed. The medicine's there. It's already been there. The teachings are there, right? But sometimes we have to remind our men and our families that that's how it get. It's not us. It's nothing special. It's new. We know it, right? But it's about the men standing up and teaching that stuff to our men. So that's my solution.
Right on. I mean, men, yeah, sure. It's like women Great, thank you. Our relatives, our sisters, aunties and grandmas and wives, partners. Thank you for that. But yes, as men, we need to stand up and start working with men, and calling out men on their behaviors too, and what's going on, and speaking up. And I got to admit, man, I'll tell you right now that sure I do a lot of things. I'm out there and working with people. I'm online and out there, but at the same time, I feel like I could be doing more. At the same time, I feel like I could be doing more. That I could really be like stepping up. And I admire you're out there. It's a commitment. You, Mike, have a commitment every Tuesday morning that you're on there online to bring that message, whatever it is for the day, to the people. And that's that commitment. And those of you who are out there, and for myself, even I'm taking a look at myself, like, what is my commitment? You know, I've been doing this work for a long time. And sometimes I get tired. I'm saying, oh, it's their turn now, man. It's like their time now.
Nope.
Exactly, man. It's like, yeah.
Your head.
Like, and again, I have to, you know, take a look at that purpose that I have, a sacred purpose. And that keeps me in line, and it helps me stay committed. And so those of you who are out there, what is your commitment? How can we stay committed? Because yeah, we get tired, man. We get weary. We get tired of hearing on the news and about these men, those who are leaders or artists perpetrating against women or children. Man, it just we get tired of it. But my commitment, I guarantee you right now, and I probably speak for you too, Mike, that we'll be doing this until the last breath. I'll be doing this work until my last breath. When I'm that old elder, when it's time, I'll be even asking myself, okay, have I done it? Have I done enough? Have I done enough? Maybe that day when I can lay there and I just like take that last breath and just go, that time that I'm making that transition to be an ancestor. If I can take that last breath and just go, I've done my best. I've done my best. I'm calling on all the men out there too. What is it? What can we be committed to in that wellness and that health? What can we do? What is our best? And maybe I'm not saying that, like Mike and I, we speak on large audiences and auditoriums in front of people. We're, like Mike's face is out there all the time. I'm out there all the time too. I'm not saying that that's the measurement on how you that's the best. Maybe your best is, I know some brothers, is that they just want to be the best dad. And so they're doing the healing work just to be the best dad. They want to be a good husband or partner. So they're doing the healing work to be that, to take a look at themselves, to question themselves, and to celebrate themselves. Part of your stuff there, Mike, when I saw you going out to the Raiders games and all that stuff, I was like cheering for you, man, because what that is, that's you're celebrating yourself. That's a celebration, because I saw you out there with your family, with some of those games with your kids and stuff, and that's you took that time. Like other people will probably say, oh, look at him, he's doing all that stuff, going to the games and all that. Who does he think he is, man? It's like, who is he not?
Yeah.
Who is he not to be able to go there and celebrate himself with his children, to go out to the beach and have a celebration with your children or your family? My wife and I would sit at home, and our celebration is sometimes just to be at home together with our dogs and hanging out, and just being together. That's our celebration. Sure, there's all this negative, there's the healing and all this stuff, but there's the time to like just rejoice, because here you are. Those of you who are listening right now, through all the trauma, through all the historical trauma, through all the genocide and everything, and I take a look at that. My mom's mom died giving birth to her, and because of that. But here I am, and we take a look at our history there. Here we are. We've been dreamt into existence, each and every one of us. We are a dream come true. We are prayers in that work. Here we are. We're still here. And part of that is, yes, ceremony, celebrate that, but celebrate in a good way by just like saying in reverence of just saying thank you. The celebration doesn't mean, oh, I'm going to go out there, oh, let's go have a drink, or this celebration is, I smoke some weed, woohoo, yeah, no. That's all that false stuff, man. It's like the celebration is truly like just to be real, be authentic. Let's go right on. Here I am. Here I am. And so many times it's to learn about what that celebration is and what that true ceremony is, because it's just this discussion right here with Mike and I, and you who are viewing this, is a ceremony, is a celebration. This time that we have right now, you who are listening in with us too, this will never ever happen in the existence of this universe, this earth, this time right now, this moment. Here we are. And we're talking about the future generations, and we're talking about the wellness of man, and the safety and the wellness of women, and our two-spirited, the LGBTQ communities. Sure, we're talking about all this historical trauma, all this recovery and everything too, but we're also talking about like the strengths, the resilience, historical wisdoms, historical victories, ancestral wisdoms. Learn about that. Part of that too is, as men, we need to like take the time just to step into it and take a look at that. Who are we? Who are the men in the future? Who are the men in the future? Part of that too is like, I want to be that elder, that welder, but see myself being the elder and then take a look on my timeline. How did I get there? What were the steps that it took me to get there? To that point. And again, that time when it is time for me to take that last breath and become that ancestor, why be able to say, I've done my best. And look around, those around the room and say, I love you. I love you. Thanks for being on here, Mike. I mean, I can go on and on and on and talking about this and talking with you. Hey, why don't you share with us, we got a gathering coming up, right?
Oh yeah.
Hey, why don't you talk on that a little bit, this gathering that's coming up in April?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be beautiful. And if you guys haven't seen the flyer, please you go to Native Dads Network page and you can check it out there. I'm sure it's called the Healing Together Conference 2022. It's gonna be here in California. I'm sure that Native Wellness Institute has it on their Facebook page and is on their probably the website as well. It really stemmed from a conversation me and Brother Gene had here. And we were just talking about doing some things together, and I said, wouldn't it be great if we got all these organizations together and we could bring them together, and we went into a conversation about it, and we manifested just kind of, that was creator, because when we asked everyone, it was an organ, we called up and obviously Jillian from Native Wellness Institute, and we got a hold of Don Coyas from White Bison and Kateri. And then we got a hold of Al Pulley from NAFA, Native American Fathers and Families Association. And, it was one of those things when you talk to them and say, hey, we're trying to put this big thing together. We're going to call it the Healing Together Conference. Would you come be part of it? And we could host it here in California. And it was like, it all came together really quick. It wasn't even no difficult twisting their arms or nothing, me begging or anything. They just, let's do it. So we're planning for it to be here. It'll be in person. It's in and hybrid. So just in case you have at home, you can't travel yet because of COVID. Still, we understand that's still out there. But you can't make it, or maybe you're just in fear that we're still having it's a hybrid event. So you'll be able to go onto the website and you could register, and there's some cost to it. It just really helps us put on the event, and helps us pay for food for the people that will be in attendance. And man, it's gonna be a great time. It helps the facilitators that are coming in for their rooms and nature. But as far as it's a not for profit conference, and but it's going to be a beautiful thing. We're expecting 300 people to attend. So hopefully get your tickets, get your rooms up. That was one thing too. I was trying to get everybody, I've been calling a bunch of people, returning calls and emails to make sure they get their rooms by March 4th, because the block ends after that. And then it makes it really hard. You won't be able to get a room. The closest place to the hotel to the center, the event center up in Cache Creek in Brooks, California, is about 30 minutes away. So you have to drive a little bit if you don't get your room in time.
Right on, man. You know, and I remember talking about that, and it wasn't actually on a power hour. It was like just us calling each other
Yeah.
as we were like had some stuff on our minds, you know. And so part of it too is like Mike and I will like connect with each other just to support each other, because we were like going, you know, some thoughts on our minds. Hey man, let me throw this at you because I'm just mad right now. I'm just mad, you know. or I need some thoughts on this issue, you know. And then that's how the conversation got around. It's like, what if we just had this big gathering? You know, and it's like just one of these, you know, taking this, take some action to it, you know, and doing that. So, yeah, what are those dates again, Mike?
It's
April.
April 5th, 6th, and 7th. So it's coming up in about a month and a half. It's coming
So,
quick.
so you can find it on the Native Wellness Institute website, nativewellness.com. And what's yours?
NativeDadsNetwork.com.
NativeDadsNetwork.com, and you can get information on it there. And so, hey, Mike, you know, an hour goes by fast. I'm taking a look at the chats again, and thank you so much, you know, and I just want to recognize a brother out there. His on the chats too, Stephen. Thank you for your, he had some good words on there as well, you know, um, and thank you for everybody here's on the chats, you know, um, and Lucille, you said her birthday today. Happy birthday out there. Thank you, everybody.
Whoop,
Woo-hoo.
whoop. Happy birthday.
Birthday. You know, those are those things to celebrate too. I mean, sure, there's those other stuff, but just to like give each of those celebrations pats on the back. But any last words as we're coming to a close here, Mike?
Yeah, I just want to say, when we speak these words, I know I just want to share my intention is all out of love. You know what I mean? And sometimes as a parent, or sometimes as out of love, sometimes you have to you have to be a little harsh sometimes to speak truths. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's the truth, sometimes hard to hear, but it's all about the intention is supposed to be for the healed, for love, for forgiveness, for goodness, for all those things to get to this other place. And so I appreciate really taking the time, taking an hour to listen to us today. And I appreciate you giving me this platform, Gene, to share today as well.
Right on. Thanks, brother. You know, and I want to encourage everybody just to take some time just to celebrate yourselves, celebrate the simplicity of every breath, just taking a breath, go outside, you know, and out the back door just to take a breath, you know, look up at the sun. You know, tonight's a full moon. Go out there and take a look at the moon. You know, if you're next to the water or river, go out and listen to the river, the ocean, listen to the breeze out there. These are things that our ancestors listened to, they heard, and those will never change. So if you ever want to get connected with ancestors, or just get connected with the presence of yourself, just go out and do those things, and just have gratitude for those things, because here we are here, and we will continue this year, this battle. We will continue this healing, this wellness. We'll continue the recovery, you know, and the awareness, you know. And so my relatives who are out there, thank you. Ganesh Jish, Ganesh Jish. You know, we put our hands up to you and hope to see you in April. And if not in April, we'll see you down the road, eh?
Oh,
Ooh. So Ganesh Jish.